First one, does Nebraska's recruiting improve or weaken from Evan Cooper's resignation and John Butler's hire?
That's a really good question because we just don't know enough about Butler as a recruiter. But Evan Cooper, we know, was a really good recruiter, particularly in Florida. And you think about this taking it another level, Phil Simpson and Evan Cooper. And I was told that they're cousins, or they might have been related even. But the two of those guys both left Nebraska, and they really helped Nebraska and Florida to the point where this past year it was almost nuts how many Florida kids they brought into that recruiting class.
Well, how about Simpson landing Vincent Shavers, and how about
Ja'Cory Barney?
Yeah, and how
Amari
about
Sanders?
Cooper? Yeah, landing Ja'Cory Barney.
Ja'Cory Barney. I mean, there's some good ones they brought in, all from the Miami and the Florida area, and Evan Cooper was from Miami, so that was a real hotbed area for those guys to go down there. And that remains to be seen what the plan for recruiting Florida is.
Yeah, I mean, and also it's almost like a cliche now to say Cooper was a prime evaluator for Rule. It seems like everybody knows it already, but it's worth mentioning since he's out the door. Yeah, how is that going to be? How is it going to be with a coach who hasn't recruited under the current setup of college football? You know, he last recruited. I think he last recruited at Penn State in 2013.
Well, and also with this new rule, though, you can have other guys go out on the road. So I think you're going to, and I wrote this in the chat this week, you might have 3 or 4 coaches that don't go out. And then those 3 or 4 are replaced. I'll give an example. Keith Williams in Nebraska's recruiting. He can now go out on the road as a designated on the field coach if they made him on the field.
Right.
And then Keith Williams could recruit St. Louis as a St. Louis native.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of flexibility that you can do with this new rule.
I think Keith has gone out on the road.
He has before.
Yeah. So yeah, he probably would. And and we remember when we interviewed him recently, he loves the idea of going out on the road.
All right. Next question.
If you were the head coach of Nebraska, who would you bring to the Big Ten Media Days?
Go ahead, Sean. I'll let you go first. I'll let you go first and see if I agree.
We've agreed on this point that you take 3 players. I think the scale leans to defense for 2 of the 3.
Does it have to be a senior? The answer is no. I'm going to answer my
generally
question.
No, but on the offense, you're limited, I think, as far as veteran players that make sense.
All right, so go ahead.
I think your picks are between Bryce Benhart, Ben Scott, Thomas Fedoni. Those would probably be your 3 primary picks on offense.
Wait a second.
And maybe say, hey, Jamal Banks.
Hold on.
Could you take
Just
Jamal
name
Banks?
3. Don't.
Well, I'm saying that's who I'm picking from. I'm going to take Ben Scott.
Okay.
I think Jamal Banks could easily get a nod. If
taking Ben Scott.
I think Jamal Banks is a newcomer, though. They took a newcomer last year, Jeff Sims.
Right.
So Jamal Banks, don't rule him out. On defense, I think the Polar Bear goes, Nash Hutmacher, and then maybe Jamari Butler or Tommy Hill. But
oh, come on, Isaac Gifford.
Isaac Gifford could go.
Isaac Gifford.
I don't know. I
leading tackler by far.
So who do you take then?
I'm taking Isaac Gifford.
And who's your other 2?
I'm taking Isaac Gifford because he's their leading tackler by far. Cooper said he's an all Big Ten level player. He's incredibly important to the defense. So Cooper, Nash Hutmacher, and I'm taking Fedoni on offense. Isaac Gifford, Nash Hutmacher, and Fedoni is your best player on offense. If it's not Banks, and Banks is a newcomer, so
they took a newcomer last year.
They could take Banks, but I'm taking a guy who's been in the program.
Yeah, and I could see Benhart not wanting to go, and I could see
Benhart going. It's not that I don't. You can't take everybody. I mean, Benhart would be great,
and they cap it at 3. Right. I mean, I'm sure coaches wrestle because there are probably some guys that get upset they don't get to go.
Yep. And hey, Sean, but don't get me wrong, Benhart would be great. I like the Fedoni story though too. I think Fedoni going to wherever we're going, Indianapolis, and telling his story is appealing. He's got a good story. And what else about Fedoni? Loves Nebraska. Loves being part of the program. He's a great representative.
All right, next question.
This leads perfectly into my next question. Satterfield said that Nebraska's offense is going to run through the tight end position. So how do they widen the tight end role in this offense?
Now he did kind of say that, and I've been the one person who's been saying that he said it that way. I listened to the tape again the other day. The reason I bring it up, Abby, is because he said a lot of the offense will go through the tight end. It's not all going to go through it. I don't know. A lot of this is, you know what it is? A lot of this is simply Satterfield saying we can do this now because we have a quarterback who can complete passes. So we can run it through it. A lot of it through the tight end. And by the way, you have a potential all Big Ten pick there in Fedoni. You have a very good player in Nate Borkercher, and you have a budding star in Carter Nelson. And Carter Nelson's doesn't have to play a traditional inline tight end. You can split him out.
Ian Flint, Eric Ingerson coming up the ranks.
Yep.
You've got a lot of guys that play tight end, and I'm blanking on the Papillion guy. He'll play a role too.
Lindenmeyer.
Luke Lindenmeyer.
Yeah.
Luke Lindenmeyer will have a role too.
Mm-hmm.
He was their third tight end last year.
Right. Oh, Lindenmeyer's very much
People forget about him, but
yeah, he's very much part of this discussion.
He's a great blocker, and
they love it.
A good third, like almost the fullback type role. All right, next we got time. Let's squeeze one quick one in here.
Quick one.
Okay, where does Nebraska stand with Christian Jones?
There you go, Sean.
Wide open still, but Christian Jones has said he has no idea when he'll announce, and he still may take another visit in the season. So Nebraska, Oklahoma, Auburn, and I think Wisconsin's maybe the other team to watch for another visit. But as of right now, nothing on Jones.
What are your predictions for who gets a single digit? So there's 5 that currently have them. So I'm going to read them off to you so this helps. Nash Hutmacher, Isaac Gifford, John Bullock, Deshaun Singleton, and Ty Robinson. So who do you think are the other 5 that get a single digit?
I'm going to start with receiver. I think Jamal Banks gets one.
Yep.
And I'm not going to play this offensive line game like Ethan Piper, that kind of.
Could you say one maybe?
But they still give out a number anyway to somebody else. So like, let's simplify the discussion and not play the
100
offensive line game. Like,
could you say Nayor too?
What about randomly if they just gave one to Harburg, just for like his attitude and role?
Assuming it's good.
It's good. Yeah. I mean, could Raiola get one is the best question I have, but I think Ramir Johnson is a name.
Good one.
Yeah.
Ramir Johnson and
Fedoni,
but on defense now.
Oh, well, we're jumping around. So what were we saying?
We have 5 to give.
5 to give on either side of the ball.
Yeah.
All right. I'm starting with Fedoni. Okay. I'm saying
and Jamal Banks.
Fedoni, Jamal Banks.
And I'll say Ramir Johnson.
So we have 2 more to give.
Robinson and Hutmacher already have one. Maybe Elijah Judy.
Nope. Nothing against Judy. He hasn't done.
Oh, now what am I saying?
Right.
I meant Jamari Butler. I'm sorry. My apologies.
Jamari
Butler.
Judy really threw me for a
You looked at me like, are you drinking zip line?
Butler is a good
Jamari Butler. That's what I wanted to say. I said Elijah Judy.
Yeah. No, Butler's, you know what I'd put Butler in the no-brainer category. Think about what Terrence Knighton told us in Houston. Think about it. That he's the leader of the defensive line. He asked me the question, Sipple, who do you think the leader of the D line is? I said, Nash. No. He said, no. I said, okay, well then Ty. He goes, no, just Jamari Butler. So Jamari Butler's getting a single. Okay.
MJ Sherman doesn't have one, does he?
No,
I think your last one is between MJ Sherman and Javin Wright.
No, Tommy Hill has one already.
Tommy Hill has one already. Isaac Gifford has one already.
Okay, so you're saying between who again?
And Singleton has one. I would say it's between MJ Sherman.
Tommy Hill doesn't have one.
Oh, I thought he was 0.
No, he's 20.
Nope, that's Nash.
Oh, he was 0 on the old numbers.
Yeah, I think Tommy Hill's going to get one.
Tommy Hill will get one, and then I think you've got to watch either Javin Wright or MJ Sherman.
I'd lean towards Sherman. More accomplished, more starts.
But then
more starts.
After this year's over, a lot of those numbers will open up again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I hope we
that's a good question.
Thanks.
Hope we didn't miss anybody. That's the key there.
Okay. All right. Next one. Andy Staples did not list Nebraska as a blue bud, but he called them a contender. So Do you agree or no? Sipple doesn't look like he agrees.
No, not at all. And Andy's so intelligent, and he's an incredible college football mind. I just staunchly disagree with him on this. And I'm not being a homer. You don't lose your blue blood status that quickly
over like a 5-year bad run.
No, you're a blue. They would need at least 5 more bad years before I'd put him as a contender.
So to be fair though, Andy only has 9 names listed in the blue bloods.
There they are. Well, Nebraska belongs with them. Nebraska has more national titles in the last 30 years than any of those, right? Am I wrong?
Well, like Penn State has had this more consistency. I mean, but when Nebraska first joined the Big Ten, they were far ahead of Penn State. That wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, you don't.
Would you agree? In 2011, 12, 13, 14, Nebraska was further ahead of Penn State.
Absolutely. Yeah, Nebraska, I guess what I would say is you just don't lose it. You don't lose your status.
Nebraska's going through a run that like Texas went through. Texas is still blue blood though, but Texas went through a run kind of like what Nebraska's going through right now.
Right.
After Colt McCoy left, they weren't a factor.
No, they're not. Nebraska's not in contender status. It's a blue blood. That's it.
I'm looking at that list. Like Miami, it's interesting that they have, what have they done?
Well, they had a run like Nebraska, but not as strong overall. I mean, they didn't go through a period of 9-win seasons that dated 30 plus years.
That's a good list of teams, though. Like Florida State, you could argue should be up there.
Again, not as steeped in tradition as Nebraska. That's actually a good example of why Nebraska shouldn't be in the contenders list. Florida State didn't really get going. Now, I'm going into dangerous territory here because I haven't done research on this. They didn't really get going until the 80s. Nebraska had 2 national championships before Florida State even got going. Nebraska had Bob Devaney.
I mean, Nebraska was beating Bear Bryant.
Right. So that's a good example of what I'm talking about. No, Nebraska doesn't belong with Florida State. They belong with SC and Notre Dame and Texas and Michigan, etc. That's absolutely.
And Nebraska was obviously so far ahead of their ideas with strength and conditioning. I mean, even Bob Devaney's, in the 60s to recruit black players, that was far ahead of the SEC didn't have a single black player in their league at that point.
Auburn doesn't have the tradition of Nebraska.
No,
they don't. No, it's a flawed list. Nebraska belongs in the top.
But everyone's going to the recency bias.
That's what it is. Yeah, that's what it is.
Okay, let's see. We have time, Abby, for one more.
Last one. What was your favorite childhood vacation?
Wow. Huh. Do you remember your first time on an airplane?
Yeah, but it was a work trip. I was older.
Oh, you never flew as a kid ever?
Not as a kid.
See, I flew. My aunt was a travel agent, Jackie, that lives in Virginia, and she lived here in Omaha, but she would get free scouting trips or trips for her work, and she took me to a Dodgers game in like 1990.
Ooh, yeah.
And that was my first trip. They played
How old would you have been?
10 or 11. And they had the Pirates. We stayed at the Pirates Hotel with Barry Bonds and Bobby Bonilla.
Wow.
And
really?
Doug Draback. It was that Andy Van Slyke. It was a really good matchup. And Darryl Strawberry, unfortunately, was hurt, so I didn't play. But then my first other real plane ride was a youth group trip. We raised money to go to Chicago at my Catholic school, St. Peter and Paul. We were about 15. We were all 14, 15-year-old kids. Flew to Chicago. That was my first true plane trip that I went on, where we went to Six Flags and did all the stuff in Chicago. But as far as old school family vacations, we did 2 of them when I was a kid. We did the Black Hills one that everybody in Nebraska did in my era. But we drove to California and saw a family and we went to Reno, Vegas, Salt Lake City, Disneyland.
That's pretty extensive.
Sacramento. I went to a Giants game and a Dodgers game. I mean, that was a great trip when you think about it. We drove a minivan.
That's pretty extensive. We used to go to St. Louis a lot as a family. First, my dad liked it, and we'd watch baseball. And one time we stayed in this super high-rise hotel that was round. It was a round hotel, which was interesting to me. I always remember that. But I love those trips because they were centered around going to baseball games at the old Busch Stadium. And my dad was cool in that he's like me now. If I'm going to a baseball game, I want to go 90 to 2 hours early. I want the full experience of like batting practice and infield. I want to see the whole thing. And we did that, and those are the most memorable trips to St. Louis and Kansas City to ball games.
And we did another trip to drive to Virginia. Like my mom's sister lived in Virginia, and so we drove out there. My dad's brother lived in D.C., so we did the whole see the Capitol. I went to a minor league baseball game in Bowie, Maryland.
That's pretty cool.
My cousin,
I think it might be
from
Bowie,
South Omaha, B.J. Wazigas, him and the late Camara Barti played for the Bowie Bay Sox together, and we got to watch.
Really?
We got to watch them play. Double A Orioles.
I want to say it's Bowie.
Bowie, Maryland.
Yeah.
The Bowie Bay Sox.
Yeah, I don't think it's Bowie.
Then we got to go to a AAA game in Norfolk, Virginia. And they say it like that. Norfolk. You don't say Norfolk. Norfolk.
Okay.
I didn't say the word. I just said the name of the town.
Abby, hello.
But those were our two big ones. I mean, but my favorite trips. I went to Hawaii with you, Steve Sipple. I went to Ireland with you.
Those were fun. Those trips were amazing, by the way.
Fun fact about traveling with Steve Sipple. It could be wherever you fly, Ireland, Hawaii, the length of the flight doesn't matter. He raw dogs every flight. And if you're not familiar with what that term means, it's no technology, no screen, no music, no book.
Nothing.
It's you, your eyes, and maybe the pamphlet that tells you how to get out of the plane.
That's true. I don't know why that is. Some of it's just sleep related.
Like he raw dogged all the way from O'Hare to Dublin.
Yeah, slept. There was some sleeping. Probably slept for 3 hours. I sleep on planes really well. That's the main explanation.
I would put your raw dogging skills up on a plane with anybody.
Really? Thank you.
Like you could fly to Saigon and raw dog it probably.
Yeah, I find some of the like watching a movie, which I've done, to be sort of more annoying than anything. I mean, just annoying. And a lot of this is just centered around the fact that I will get in a plane, sit down, and fall asleep before it takes off. And I'll often wake up and go, "Did we take off? Are we flying right now?"
And you can't work on a plane either.
I hate working on.
It's like Robin and I
don't know how you do it.
We do it because we want to get off the plane and start drinking.
I was very candid.
I mean, we want to enjoy our Friday night.
We appreciate your candor.
I don't want to get back to the hotel on Friday when we land and have to go work for 2 hours. I want to use those 2 hours on the plane so then when we land, it's go right and have some fun.
Yeah, you guys are more energetic and get bent that way than me. I don't mind the fact of having to ride a little.
You go work out on Friday nights.
Yeah, I do a little bit of that too. Yeah.
So the raw dog.
The raw dog. I don't want that nickname, by the way.
Abby, I'm guessing have you ever raw dogged on a flight where you have not done a thing?
If I did, it was mostly just because I was sleeping. Nope. I think either way, I have music playing in my ears because airplanes are so loud. I don't know. They are just like the noise that the plane makes. It annoys me. Yeah. So I always wear earplugs.
I download on Netflix and Paramount, all the streaming you can download right on your phone. So I'll download like 20 things that way, because some of these flights only have Wi-Fi, but if they're downloaded on your phone, you can watch them. So
maybe I'll change a little bit, but I doubt it.